Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the AB is a criminal organization whose members and associates engaged in drug trafficking, theft, and acts of involving murder, extortion, burglary, robbery, and assault. The purpose of the Aryan Brotherhood is to control illegal activities within the California prison system, to enrich its leaders, members, and associates, to preserve, protect, and expand the reach of the Aryan Brotherhood's power, and to threaten and use violence to keep victims in fear of the Aryan Brotherhood. The Aryan Brotherhood does this by authorizing and condoning members and associates to commit criminal acts, by engaging in acts such as drug trafficking, theft, robbery, and extortion. The AB is run by a three-man commission with authority over the entire enterprise. Senior members of the organization have more authority than others. Murder of a non-member does not need commission approval. The Aryan Brotherhood is a white race-based gang formed in the California prison system in about 1964 by white inmates who wanted to gain power and authority in prison. We will present evidence to you that these three men were and are the shot callers of this ruthless gang. People died in and out of prison based on the words and direction of these three men sitting before you. You will hear from people that aspired to be one of them, and from those that would do anything that these men told them to do. One of those persons is Jason Fields. Jason killed when ordered to do so. At one time, he would tattoo stitches on his lips, vowing to never tell on the Aryan Brotherhood. But after sitting in a cell all alone, he began to contemplate after taking three men's lives. And then he would decide to do what he always said he would never do. Blood in, blood out. This life is real if you choose it. An Aryan brother is without a care. He walks where the weak and heartless won't dare. And if by chance he should stumble and lose control, his brothers will be there to help reach his goal. For a worthy brother, no need is too great. He need not but ask. Fulfillment's his fate. For an Aryan brother, death holds no fear. Vengeance will be his through his brothers still here. For the Brotherhood, murder has and always will be a way of life. If you get in the way it could be the last of you. Kenneth Johnson, Francis Clement, and John Youngster Stinson, all serving life in California, are now on trial in federal court. For them, does it really matter? They have life anyway. They'll never see the streets. The prosecution is out to paint a picture of viciousness, power, and control. The power these three men yield from prison to other prisons, and even on the street, according to federal prosecutors, is like none seen before. If they needed someone hit, it would happen. But how about those that turn their backs on the oath and on the Brotherhood? James Field, a 37-year-old killer, would do what few do. He would turn into a government informant. As a young man, he had aspirations of being a member of the Brotherhood. But when the feds came knocking, James decided he did not want to die in prison. The feds would place their star witness in the Federal Witness Protection Program. He was the one man that would help tie the case together. After all, he was the shooter. James' day would come. Inside, he felt fear for what he was about to do. Inside, he dreaded the day that was about to come. But now, it had arrived. He would face the three men that he once idolized. In his mind, he had no choice but to seal their fate. But really, with all doing life already, their fate had been sealed long ago. James thought he might as well save himself. Today, he would do what he came to do. James Field had tattooed stitches over his lips in a vow to never reveal the secrets of the Aryan Brotherhood. Today, the stitches would come off. He would stand up and place his hand on the Bible, taking an oath to tell the truth, as if he had a recent conversion to follow God and become a lawful citizen. The three shot callers looked on, laughing inside at the man they once thought would someday come into the fold. But today, they seen him for who they thought he was, a lame. For them, the trial was likely a joke. What could the feds do to them? After their trial, they will return to a prison cell. While the numbers on the cell might change, the atmosphere is always the same. It goes from cell 101 to 110. Paint's the same, bed's the same, chow is the same. This was their life, and this will always be their life. The Aryan Brotherhood was created in prison. The whites wanted their own thing. When officials began to desegregate state and federal prisons there in the 1960s, black and white inmates were thrown up against each other in many cases for the first time, and violent conflicts would result. The Aryan Brotherhood was formed at the San Quentin State Prison in California in 1964, organizing defensively against a violent black prison gang, the Black Guerrilla Family, and becoming the first major white supremacist prison gang in the country in the process. Its original membership was largely Irish bikers, who initially called themselves the Diamond Tooth Gang because members wore shards of glass in their teeth. But after merging with other white cliques in San Quentin, they renamed themselves the Aryan Brotherhood. For the AB and prison violence, it was everywhere, and it was extreme. When it happened, it was hard. When it came to the AB and the Black Guerrilla family, everyone could get got, from inmates to prison guards. In 1985, the BGF would demonstrate this, when on June 8, 1995, they would target a prison sergeant for bringing weapons into the prison for the AB. Sergeant Birchfield would feel the wrath. Even with Officer Ricky Lipton walking the separate gun rail or gun walk behind him, the BGF would strike. With a spear and a sharpened knife at the end, as Sergeant Birchfield was in a dark area doing the 11 o'clock p.m. count, he was speared in the chest on June 8, 1985. He would fall to the ground as Rick Lipton looked on, blowing a whistle for help and not firing his gun. It was too dark, and he could not see who just took the sergeant's life. Prison life and prison gangs always entwined with violence and murder. Even though the gang originated in prison, the government star witness, tattooed lips and all, would testify that its power had seeped into the streets of Los Angeles County. James Field would be paroled in late 2021 with instructions to do anything I could to bring money to the brothers. He wanted to be one of the guys, and in order to be one, he was willing to do whatever it took to be a part of this organization, even if it meant he had to kill and take a chance of going back to prison for the rest of his life. He would rob, extort, and kill for them as long as he could be brought into the fold. For Jason Field, freedom meant nothing to him. Thoughts of going back for the rest of his life and giving up all the good things that came with freedom, like the ability to eat what you want, female companionship, driving a car. None of it meant anything when you dream of being an AB and running a yard someday. As he said on the stand, he would tell the jury, "I've been brainwashed for a long time about prison politics and how all this comes first. This whole life, violence, drug use, this white supremacist stuff." With his life riddled with crime and the criminal justice system, Jason would outline his life in and out of juvenile detention centers as a teen. He would later step up to the big leagues, state prison. There he served time for car theft, burglary, and assault. Not being a leader in life, he would learn to look up to the older convicts and soon would idolize them as his gods. He would be taught about the Aryan Brotherhood, a group of about 30 men whose word was the law for thousands of white prisoners. He knew there was a pecking order and he had to be part of a gang and other hate groups, the perfect soldier for the shot callers. At one time, he was a member of the Lakeside Gangsters. He later joined an outfit called the Supreme Powerskins. He would tattoo a swastika on his face and 14 and 88 on his head, the 14 words and the 88 precepts. This prison and gang shit had consumed his life. He would connect with Jason Beaver Weaver and AB members according to the feds once he hit the bricks. With making money on his mind and pleasing the shot callers, he would start out robbing people and selling drugs and giving a kickback. Before long, he was called on, according to him, to handle some business and do a job by one of the three men that were now staring at him in a lonely federal courthouse. That man was Francis Clement. Jason would testify that he and another man, Michael Brizendine, a 230-pound ex-con with blue eyes and blonde hair, nicknamed Cornfed. Jason and Cornfed would meet in a Long Beach motel room gathered around a bed for a video conference call with Clement from his contraband cell phone. Weaver and a third reputed Aryan Brotherhood member, Waylon Pitchford, were also present for the call. The shot callers ordered them to handle business by robbing someone that had burned Pitchford in a drug deal. According to Jason Clement, they had told him to disguise themselves as utility workers so he would open the door. Their victim. With the order, they began to put things together. They would head to Home Depot and do as their shot caller instructed. They would buy hard hats and orange shorts and rent a U-Haul so that whatever they took could be loaded up. Jason, Cornfed, and another youngster named Nick would knock on the door. When no one answered, Cornfed would kick the door in, and they all went inside. Little did Cornfed know that this would be the end of his life. They would find a man in a room talking on a phone. He would be zip-tied as Jason called Clement as the man they were holding at gunpoint acted dumbfounded. Clement would tell them that they were at the right house and to make sure they loaded up the U-Haul, but the police were on their way. The man had texted whoever he was talking to, telling them to call the police. Jason would tell Clement the plan went wrong when Cornfed decided to kick in the door. Clement would get angry. "Dude fucked up. Handle that," Clement would tell Jason. For Jason, handle that meant only one thing. He had to get rid of Cornfed. But Cornfed thought the only way they could get in and do the job was kicking in the door. Little did he know that small mistake would cost him his life at the hands of the man he was on the mission with. Jason would do as ordered and tell Cornfed he has to see him to discuss business. The two would meet at a gambling parlor in Roseman. corn-fed in a red Dodge Ram that his girlfriend had rented with fake driver's license and never returned. Jason would follow the truck to a house in a remote stretch of Lancaster. He was on the phone with Weaver when he opened the Ram's passenger door. He told Cornfed he was on the phone with Beaver Weaver. Cornfed heard Weaver's voice coming from the speakerphone, but it was only momentarily. As he leaned in to talk, Jason would pull a pistol from his back and put one into Cornfed's dome. His moment had come. Forever gone, all his loyalty to the Aryan Brotherhood had taken his life. The next morning, Cornfed's girl checked his phone location and saw he was at the home of a woman she knew. Thinking Cornfed was cheating, she drove to the house on 48th Street West and threw open the door of the Ram. She was yelling at Cornfed before she realized he wasn't moving. He was gone. She was pregnant with Cornfed's baby, and although she was involved in the criminal lifestyle, she broke down knowing that Cornfed was forever gone. She would confront Jason as she knew the two were on missions together. At first, he would deny what he had done, but would later confess, telling her, "Michael is the only one that haunts me." Jason had become a killer. Within a week, he would drive a stolen Mercedes to Bakersfield to pick up a load of fentanyl for Pittsburgh. As he drove off from a gas station in San Fernando, a cop car would get behind him. Jason would take off with a gun and a bag of 1,000 fake M30 pills and a quarter-pound of fentanyl in the vehicle. He would hit a pickup truck as the cops chased behind him and find himself in the hospital later on. A broken ankle and a gash on his head. Thoughts of going back to prison for forever. But it didn't happen. How it happened, no one would know. But Jason would walk out of the hospital without facing charges. 4 days later, he would get a text on a WhatsApp from Clement telling him to have fun and that he might need him to dome somebody soon. Someone else had crossed the brothers, and Clement, as always, wanted blood. Ronnie Enos and James Jimbo Yagle were members of the Pen 1 gang, short for Public Enemy Number 1. They botched a kidnapping, allowing 2 hostages to escape from an apartment in Bellflower. Enos and Yagle had also taken from the hostages 2 duffel bags that belonged to the brothers. The AB wanted those bags back, and they were playing no games. Jason was ready to kill again for his people. Jason would go with 3 Pen 1 members to Lakewood, where Yagle and Enos surrendered the bags. Enos knew he was in trouble, but he had no idea how bad this was about to. He did what no criminal should ever do. He would hand Jason his gun, believing he was only going to get a discipline, not the loss of life. He thought he'd just get his ass beat, but there were bigger plans in motion. His text came in, Clement would be at the helm. Find a dark, quiet place now, he would write over the signal app. They were heading towards Pomona. They pulled off the freeway, made a U-turn on Reservoir Street, and stopped. Jason Field would hand Yagle a gun and said he needed to kill his friend Enos. "I wanted him to think that he had a chance," Jason would testify. But Jason knew that Yagle had no chance of walking out of there either. Today, they would meet their maker or go to hell, whichever one God had planned for them. Yagle would get out of the car that him and Jason were riding in. There was a second car with Enos and the Pen 1 bros in it. Jason pointed his gun at Yagle, and he would pull the trigger. It jammed. He chambered another round and squeezed the trigger, shooting Yagle in the chest. Enos knew it was over with, and now he regretted turning over his gun. These people were now about to take his life. The people he had loved and been loyal to, or so he thought. Enos started to run as the other Pen 1 members gave chase. Gunshots would ring out in his direction, and he would feel the hot lead hit his body, and he would breathe no more. Clement would call Jason right at that moment. It was all happening. "What the hell is that?" Jason would respond, "It's Ronnie screaming." After everything had been done, Jason would get another text from Clement telling him that he was proud of the work that he had done. For Jason, that meant everything to him. He knew he was locked into becoming what he always wanted to be. With this approval, it wouldn't be long. But how would it really end? Jason would be indicted in 2020. Held at the Fresno County Jail, he told Weaver that he had been tricked into speaking to an informant about the corn-fed homicide. Did he not realize that anything he did wrong could lead him to losing his life? Those lips, no longer good. Once Jason revealed what he had done, he would be shunned by the homeboys. No one was really wanting to be associated with him for talking about the brothers' business. They all knew that loose lips, even ones with tattooed stitches, could mean you won't be here much longer. Jason would find himself alone in the recreation area, but he would hear someone trying to jimmy his door. Now he started to believe that he had become the mission. Would the man on the other side get in and stab him to death? Was it finally his turn? He had violated the code and talked about the AB's business, so now, like Cornfed and the others, he had gunned down, he had to take his punishment. He knew that no matter how much he had done for the bros, his ultimate punishment could be death. Jason had contemplated all that he was and all he had become for a moment he was ready to accept his punishment, or was he? Jason would be spared when the man on the other side could not get in. But later that night, when he was all alone in his cell, he would think to himself, is this it? Is this what he was really supposed to do with his life? He would tell the jury he thought to himself, this is what it's come to. With thoughts in his mind about all he had done for the Brotherhood and the people he had hurt, what was he supposed to do? Wait to be killed? Wait to be convicted and sent to prison for the rest of his life? Or would he seek out prosecutors and do what he always said he would never do? Jason would do what no one ever really expected he would. He would cut a deal with federal prosecutors, hoping that he would not be sent to prison for the rest of his life. He would plead guilty to taking the lives of 3 men and rest his hope in getting out of prison someday with the judge and prosecutors. When Jason had finished testifying, he looked at the 3 shot callers, knowing that he had to live with this for the rest of his life. To them, he was a mark in a lane. As U.S. Marshals led him out of the courtroom with shackles on his wrists and ankles, he would walk past 2 women that were crying as he testified how he had took Cornfed's life. He would whisper to them, I'm sorry.